In the beating heart of Africa lies a realm that defies easy measurement. It is not a country, nor a border, nor a single jungle. It is an organism, a green ocean so vast that it creates its own climate, as if breathing on its own. An empire of trees, water, and shadows that stretches across several nations, silently sustaining an essential part of the planet's balance, the Congo Basin. Here the air has weight. The humidity clings to the skin like a second layer. The light doesn't fall, it filters through, it arrives in fragments, as if the forest were choosing what to reveal and what to conceal. And beneath that endless canopy of leaves, life doesn't just exist, it competes, conspires, adapts, and sometimes disappears without a trace. This forest is not a stage set, it is an ancient laboratory. Through it flows an artery unlike any other, a colossal, dark, and powerful river, capable of changing the history of a species without ever touching it. A river that carries not only water, it carries destiny. Its currents separated lineages, isolated populations, and pushed evolution down different paths for millennia. The Great Congo River. It's not a line on a map, it's a biological border, a liquid wall that divided entire worlds. To the north and south, very similar creatures followed different paths, as if the planet had written two alternate versions of the same story. And at the heart of that story are they, the great apes, the gentle giants, the ancient intelligences, beings with emotions, hierarchies, memory, strategy, and fear. Here, strength alone is not enough. Nor is it enough to be fast. To survive in the Congo, one must master an invisible language, the language of muffled sounds, of aromas suspended in the humidity, of hidden signals that travel between leaves and branches. Welcome to the Congo, a long expedition, dense, full of revelations that won't always be comfortable. In this forest, the word gorilla doesn't describe a single animal. It describes several forms of greatness, several evolutionary responses to an environment that demands specialization. There are gorillas made for swamps and flooded clearings, gorillas forged for the fibrous vegetation of the ground, gorillas adapted to the cold and fog of extreme altitudes. They are related, but they are not the same, and each one represents a different way of conquering the same green empire. In the vast western expanse of the basin, where forests give way to swamps and the ground transforms into a dark, watery expanse, the western lowland gorilla thrives. It lives among flooded clearings and areas where the forest opens just enough for sunlight to reach the ground and plant life to flourish. Despite its enormous size, this gorilla retains surprising agility. An adult male, a silverback in full bloom, may seem like an impossible mass of muscle, and yet move carefully among tree trunks, slippery roots, and dense vegetation as if it knew every inch of that labyrinth. His life is dominated by one obsession: fruit. In the jungle, fruit is not a reliable resource. It doesn't appear when you want it to. It appears when the forest decides. Some trees bear fruit unpredictably, and this uncertainty forces gorillas to traverse vast territories. They are not erratic wanderers. They are biological cartographers. They memorize routes, seasons, areas of abundance, and areas of scarcity. The jungle is their map, but also their trap, because every move increases the risk. However, the gorilla does not live on sweetness alone. In the flooded clearings, they find aquatic plants rich in minerals. This is a crucial detail because this mineral supply can define the health of the group, influencing fertility, growth, and the resistance of individuals. Diet is energy, but it is also chemistry, and chemistry determines fate. The group's leader doesn't rule with constant shouting, he rules with presence. The silverback is a patient strategist. His enormous body isn't just strength, it's a message. And his most famous gesture, the chest thump, isn't a simple act of aggression as many imagine. It's communication, a drum of flesh and blood. The sound travels through kilometers of vegetation. It's a complex acoustic signal. It says, this territory has an owner. It says, this group is united. It says, here is a strong male, but also a family that remains cohesive even when it disperses to feed. But if we move east, the forest changes character. The land begins to rise. The fruit becomes less predictable in some areas, ground vegetation becomes more prominent, and the survival strategy transforms. Here appears an even more corpulent giant, Grauer's gorilla, also known as the eastern lowland gorilla. This isn't just big, it's colossal. It's the largest living primate on the planet, a mass built to process fibrous vegetation in seemingly impossible quantities. Their life doesn't revolve around searching for fruit like a capricious treasure. Their life is sustained by the abundance of the soil: leaves, stems, bark, bamboo pith, hard material, resistant, low energy reward for most animals. But not for him. Its digestive system is a factory, a biological chamber designed to extract the maximum from the minimum. Its size is not a luxury, it's a tool. It allows it to eat for hours, move calmly, and convert what for others would be plant waste into vital fuel. And precisely because of that size, his lifestyle is much more terrestrial. Climbing trees frequently ceases to be efficient. It's not that he can't, it's that it's not in his best interest. Gravity rules his world, and he has accepted it. Their groups are usually large and cohesive. The silverback's authority is absolute, but he rarely needs to be brutal. Their power is not based on constant violence, but on stability. In an ecosystem where energy can be more effectively managed, conflict is costly. Peace is a strategy. And then, higher still, beyond the tropical forest, the world changes again. The Virunga Mountains rise like a wall, fog clings to the vegetation. The air cools, life slows, becomes heavier. Here, at altitudes exceeding 3,000 meters, lies an isolated domain, the mountain gorilla. This gorilla seems to be made of different stuff. Its fur is longer and denser. It's not for aesthetics, it's for survival. The cold is unforgiving. And at these altitudes, fruit is almost non-existent. There's no easy sweetness here. There's fiber. There are stems, there are leaves, there's plant pith. A constant feast of the tough. Eating is not a moment, it's a job. These gorillas spend a huge part of the day feeding. Energy is precious, but in that harshness, the mountain forges something exceptional: stronger social bonds. The groups are remarkably tolerant. The silverback isn't obsessed with patrolling borders like a territorial tyrant. Here he becomes a patriarch, the central figure of a close-knit clan, where the young play with surprising freedom under the watchful eyes of giants who, despite their power, maintain a calm that seems almost human. It's a poignant contrast. Giants born in the cold who learn to survive not only with strength but with cohesion. But the Congo never allows a story to be just quiet. The serenity of the forest is deceptive. Under the shade of ancient trees, where the light is reduced to a green twilight, there is another presence. A silent threat that shares territory with these great apes, a predator that doesn't compete with them for fruit or leaves. It competes for meat, and its existence is defined by the ambush. We don't see it yet. We only sense its possibility. In the Congo, danger rarely announces itself clearly. It insinuates itself, it hides, it moves silently. And then we remember the Great Divide, the river, that liquid boundary that split evolutionary histories in two. South of the Congo, the deep jungles hold a secret that doesn't exist in the north. A very close relative, a different intelligence, a social world that seems to contradict the brutal logic of survival. The bonobo lives here, sometimes called pygmy chimpanzee, although that label falls short. The bonobo is slender, with longer limbs, and moves fluidly through the high canopy. Its dark face is framed by tufts of hair that part at the crown, and its gaze, when it meets ours, evokes a disquieting feeling: recognition. As if the forest were reflecting a mirror back to us. The bonobo feeds largely on fruit, but it's not simply a gatherer. It's omnivorous. It supplements its diet with leaves, grasses, and occasionally small animals. It's not a ferocious predator like the chimpanzee in some regions, but neither is it innocent. In the jungle, no one is. The difference lies in how they handle conflict, and here the bonobo breaks all the rules we usually imagine for great apes. Their society is ruled by females. Although males may be larger and stronger individually, females form close, lasting alliances, coalitions that function as a political structure. Mothers, sisters, daughters. Solidarity transformed into power. They control the best resources, set the social pace, and a male's position depends largely on his mother's rank. It's a bond that lasts a lifetime. In the world of bonobos, strength is not enough. The network matters. Diplomacy matters. And this diplomacy takes surprising forms. Instead of escalating to lethal violence, as happens in other primate societies, bonobos use intimate social behaviors as tools for cohesion and tension resolution. This isn't about scandal or human caricature, it's social biology, a mechanism for diffusing conflicts, reducing aggression, and maintaining a stable community fabric. In their world, war dissolves before it is born. Their vocalizations fill the forest, high-pitched sounds, rapid calls, constant communication that reveals a society that needs to be connected. They are less thunderous than the gorilla's chest-beating, but more frequent, more nervous, like a fabric of voices supporting an invisible structure. And yet, this utopia only exists on this side of the river, because if we cross to the north, we enter a parallel universe. North of the Congo, the forest seems similar until you understand its rules. Here lives the eastern chimpanzee, another close relative, another mirror image, but with a society forged by different pressures. The chimpanzee's social structure is fraught with male politics, tense alliances, competition, and territorial vigilance. Their group may be enormous, but it is rarely seen complete. They live in a fission-fusion system. They separate and reunite, fragmenting into factions, patrols, subgroups, mothers with young and moving males. Fruit remains central, but competition for it is fiercer, and power is built on that competition. Here, the alpha male isn't just the strongest, he's the most strategic, the one who intimidates with intelligence, the one who forms coalitions, the one who knows who to support and when to betray. The males groom themselves to reinforce bonds that will later be crucial when conflict erupts. Because the conflict does erupt, chimpanzees are territorial, and when they don't patrol to see. They patrol to assert dominance. If they encounter rivals, the violence can be brutal, organized, and lethal. In the Congo, miniature wars unfold beneath silent branches far from any camera. Their aggression is also expressed in hunting. Chimpanzees can organize cooperative groups, assigning roles for pursuit, blocking, and ambush to capture arboreal prey. Furthermore, they are skilled in tool-making. They prepare stems, modify objects, and transmit techniques culturally from mothers to offspring. It's not pure instinct, it's learning, it's a tradition. And while these complex societies move among giant roots, the forest floor reveals another force, another form of power. Suddenly a flash of color pierces the gloom, an impossible mask. A face that seems painted by a delirious artist, the mandrill. It's not an ape, it's the largest and heaviest ape on the planet. And its presence isn't based solely on its size, but on the language of status. The dominant male is a technicolor spectacle, electric blues, vibrant reds, golden yellows. But this isn't decoration, it's biology. It's a hormonal advertisement that screams power, rank, and reproductive success. However, the mandrill is not dominated by a single male. Dominate by numbers. Their troops can number in the hundreds. A tide of bodies advancing through the forest as a single organism, stirring up leaf litter, collecting fallen fruit, roots, seeds, insects. They are a mobile ecological force, a whirlwind of sound and movement that disrupts everything in their path. And when such a mass moves, the forest listens. The jungle always listens. At this point, our expedition is just beginning to open the door. We have seen how the Congo forges different giants, how a river divides destinies, and how societies close to our own chose opposite paths. The matriarchal diplomacy of the bonobos, the tense politics of the chimpanzees, the massive power of the mandrills. But this kingdom still holds its darkest chapter, because beyond intelligence, there is absence. Beyond power, there is the fall. And beyond the jungle, the nearby savannah tells a painful story, a story of silence. The Congo is not a uniform mass. It is not an eternal jungle that stretches equally in all directions. It is a living mosaic, a system in constant tension where the forest gradually unravels, giving way to clearings, savannas, grasslands, and open corridors. At these limits, where the shadows lose their density and the light becomes harsher, life changes its rules. Here, sound travels differently. Smells dissipate more quickly. The horizon exists, and when there is a horizon, survival becomes a different kind of negotiation. In the dense jungle, danger is usually an ambush. In the savanna, danger can come from afar, like a growing shadow. At the edge of the great forest, the land opens up to reveal a world of grass, a landscape that, from a distance, might seem simpler, but it's an illusion. These open spaces are an equally complex ecological machine, shaped by giants, by migrations, by water, and by the invisible violence of the climate. For thousands of years, one of those giants walked here as if nothing could touch him, an animal of almost absurd scale compared to the rest of the fauna. A behemoth weighing over 2 tons, designed to live with its head down, its height diminishing the world, the northern white rhinoceros. To understand the true weight of that presence, one must imagine it in motion. Not as a legendary monster, but as what it was, an architect of the landscape. Its body was muscle and bone, but its function was far greater than its mass. It had a wide, square lip, a perfect evolutionary tool. It wasn't an animal that picked delicate leaves like other more selective herbivores. It was a reaper, a pure grazer. It cut vast swathes of grass with methodical efficiency day after day, season after season. And in doing so, he sculpted the savanna. Where a northern white rhinoceros once lived for years, the grass didn't grow unchecked. The landscape remained open. Patches of short grass became habitats for other species, small rodents, insects, birds that depend on open spaces to feed or watch for predators. Even fire patterns, both natural and seasonal, could vary because a well-mown grassland burns differently. It's easy to think of a rhinoceros as a simple plant consumer. In reality, he was a regulator of the system. Their lives were also quiet. They didn't move in noisy hordes like mandrills. It wasn't a boisterous society. Females and their young might form small groups, but adult males were largely solitary, territorial, methodical. They marked their territories with mounds of dung, veritable olfactory border posts. There they left information, who passed through, when, and in what condition. In a world where sight is not the primary sense, smell becomes a map. And on that map, the rhinoceros was a constant presence. Her eyesight wasn't her strong suit. Her vision was poor, a world of blurry shapes. But her sense of smell was keen, her hearing sharp. Her funnel-shaped ears could rotate independently to capture the slightest sounds, a rustle, a footstep, a breath. And despite its apparent sensory fragility, its size made it a biological tank. Few natural predators could face a healthy adult. Nature rarely dares to collide with such a mass, but the rhinoceros bore its sentence on its face. 2 horns. Not bone, but densely compacted keratin. The same material as our nails, multiplied until it becomes a symbol, a desire, a curse. In biological terms, a horn is a tool. In human terms, it became a commodity. And when merchandise enters the ecosystem, the balance ceases to be natural. In recent decades, the combination of political instability, armed conflict, structural poverty, and transnational criminal networks has transformed the edge of Congo into a militarized poaching ground. It wasn't a lone hunter with an old rifle, it was a system, intelligent, organized, well-equipped. In many places, the jungle and the savanna were crisscrossed by illegal extraction routes, by corridors where the law is diluted and fear reigns. The northern white rhinoceros knew nothing about black markets, superstitions, or money. He only knew that something was chasing him, and in Garamba, their last wild stronghold, that pursuit turned into an unequal war. The park, a stretch of grasslands and open forest in the northeast of the Democratic Republic of Congo, was for years the final stage for an entire subspecies. Each fallen rhinoceros was not just a lost body, it was a cancelled future. Because rhinos don't reproduce quickly, their cycles are slow. Their young require time, protection, and stability. They are animals made for a world that changes slowly. But the world didn't change slowly, it changed like a blow. Today, the northern white rhinoceros is functionally extinct in the wild. This isn't a dramatic statement, it's a stark reality. It means that even if some individuals remain, there is no longer a viable population capable of sustaining itself in its natural environment. The landscape they once shaped was left without its architect, and the silence they leave behind is not poetic, it's eco-friendly. When a mega herbivore disappears, it's not just an animal that's lost. A driving force of the ecosystem is lost. Grass can grow taller, scrubland can advance. Habitat structure changes. Some species thrive, others collapse. Fire cycles can intensify. Grazing patterns are redistributed. It is not a simple void, it's a reconfiguration. And when the system reconfigures itself, others try to fill the void, not out of ambition, but out of necessity. In these edges of the forest, where the grass stretches out like a carpet under the sun, there is still a terrestrial force that moves with a logic opposite to that of the solitary rhinoceros, a collective force, a living fortress, the savanna buffalo. If the rhinoceros was an isolated tank, the buffalo is a mobile wall. It can weigh close to a ton in a large male. Its body is a compact block of dark muscle. Its gaze seems simple, but its presence is intimidating. And its most formidable feature crowns its head: the horns. In mature males, the bases fuse to form a head, a continuous bony shield as hard as armor. From this natural helmet emerge two curved hooks capable of lifting, piercing, and tearing apart. They're not decorations, they're arguments. The buffalo is also a grazer. It consumes large quantities of grass, contributing to the maintenance of the savanna and preventing shrubs from encroaching upon it. But what defines it is not only what it eats, but how it lives. It lives in a pack, in numbers that transform biology into military strategy. Hundreds, sometimes thousands of individuals. A massive congregation that exists not out of social romanticism, but for survival. Because the buffalo has predators, and the main one is unforgiving: the lion. On the savanna, the lion is all about calculation, observation, patience, and one mistake by the buffalo can be fatal. But when the buffalo has a herd, the calculations change. The calves are surrounded by adults. The females and males form a perimeter. Their horns point outwards. The herd becomes a circular fortress. If a lion tries to break through that defense, it risks dying. What's most impressive is that buffalo don't always just defend themselves. Sometimes they attack, they charge in groups. A coordinated stampede of tons of muscle can crush even a big cat. That reputation is not a myth. It is a consequence of collective life. And that is why, on the edges of the Congo, where water and pasture dictate routes, seeing a herd of buffalo drinking is like seeing an army taking up positions. But the savanna isn't just land, it's also sky. And where there are herds, there are eyes watching from above. Because the Congo doesn't operate solely on force. It operates on information, and the information travels with creatures that seem fragile, but that intelligently support the system. From the treetops that border the clearings, a presence observes. A shining sentinel, the Congo grey parrot. At first glance, the grey parrot seems inconspicuous: ashy plumage, muted tones, a shape that blends in with the bark and the shadows. But there is an exception: its red tail, a scarlet flash that breaks the camouflage like a stamp. Their society is also collective. Enormous flocks, hundreds or thousands of individuals, turn dawn and dusk into a storm of sound. They travel together from communal roosts to feeding grounds. Not out of chaos, but through coordination. In Congo, cohesion is a weapon. But what makes the grey parrot a unique piece of the puzzle is not the number. It's the mind. Its cognitive abilities are extraordinary for its size. It doesn't just repeat sounds. It interprets, associates, learns patterns, solves problems, and builds complex social bonds. And above all, he wields a power that, in an ecosystem of shadows, is worth its weight in gold. Imitation. In nature, mimicry isn't a showman's trick, it's about survival. A grey parrot can reproduce alarm calls, replicate the sounds of other animals, and manipulate auditory signals that alter the behavior of those around it. In a forest where seeing is difficult, sound decides. An alarm call can clear a clearing. It can stop a herd, it can warn primates. It can reveal the presence of a predator. The grey parrot is not just a bird, it's an alert system. Its diet reveals another side of the Congo, the abundance of the canopy. It feeds on seeds and fruits, especially those of oil-rich palms, using its hooked beak with strength and precision. Its feet, adapted for manipulation, make feeding an almost manual operation. They look like hands, and in a way they are. But as so often happens in this story, intelligence can also be a curse. Because what makes the African grey parrot fascinating to the ecosystem also makes it desirable to humans. Its ability to mimic sounds, to form bonds, to seem friendly, has made it a target of the illegal wildlife trade, a silent pressure that is not seen from above, but that empties the forest from within. Thus, in this part too, the Congo reveals an uncomfortable truth. The balance is not only broken when a predator kills its prey, or when a pack dominates a territory. It is broken when an external force alters the rules. The northern white rhinoceros was an architect of the grasslands. Its absence leaves an ecological scar. Buffalo represent the power of collective resistance. The African grey parrot, intelligence as an information system, and also as vulnerability to human desire, and this is just the edge of the forest. Because if we venture back into the heart of the Congo, the jungle awaits us with its most complex dramas. The political power of the chimpanzees, the invisible alliances, the territorial tension, and the brutal contrast with the diplomacy of the bonobos. Furthermore, in the heart of the forest, every move of a large society triggers chain reactions. Monkeys fleeing, birds screaming, predators taking advantage of the chaos. The Congo is a chessboard, and each piece moves the others. The Congo is never completely silent. Even when it seems asleep, even when the dampness muffles sounds and the light turns into a thick gloom, the forest is full of invisible conversations. Footsteps on the leaf litter, branches creaking, calls that travel like threads between giant trunks. Here, survival doesn't depend solely on strength, it depends on understanding a complex social landscape. And nowhere in the Congo is that truth more evident than in the world of the chimpanzees. North of the Great River, where water separated destinies for millennia, lives the eastern chimpanzee. We share with it almost everything essential: bones, expressions, basic emotions, and even a disturbing part of our way of organizing ourselves. Looking at a chimpanzee is not looking at another animal. It's like looking in an uncomfortable mirror. Their society is a constant drama. There is no stable, cohesive group like that of mountain gorillas. Chimpanzees live in a fission-fusion system. The entire group can number over 100 individuals, but they are rarely seen together. They fragment, they reunite, they divide again. Mothers with young move on one side, young males on the other. Patrols of adults travel along invisible borders, while solitary individuals search for ripe fruit in secret corners. The Congo forces them to be flexible. The hierarchy is masculine, but it is not simple. The alpha male isn't just the biggest, he's the one who best understands the politics of the forest. Brute force helps, but it's not enough. You need allies, favors, calculated intimidation, and public displays of power. Grooming is not tenderness, it's diplomacy. Two males grooming each other are forging pacts that will later be tested in critical moments. A bond of skin and fur can, hours later, become support during a fight or backing during a negotiation for food. Because in the world of the chimpanzee, food is politics, ripe fruit is power. Whoever controls a laden tree controls attention, alliances, and mating opportunities. And when resources are scarce, tension rises like humidity before a storm. The Congo doesn't give anything away, he lends it for a while. Territoriality is fierce. Males organize patrols that cover the boundaries of the group's territory. They advance silently, alert to any sign. A foreign scent, a recent nest, remains of food. If they find rivals, the scene could turn into a miniature war. It's not an impromptu fight, it's strategy. Some distract, others surround, others attack from behind. The violence can be lethal. In the world of chimpanzees, death is not a rare accident, it is a political tool. This is not human cruelty, it is harsh evolutionary logic. Eliminating a rival means more territory, more females, more resources for one's offspring. The forest doesn't judge methods, only results. But the chimpanzee is not just a warrior, he is also a hunter. In the high canopy where colobus monkeys move with agility, chimpanzees organize cooperative hunts. Some act as drivers, pushing the prey in one direction. Others block escape routes. A final group waits in ambush. When the strategy works, the jungle is filled with screams, and the meat is distributed according to rank. Hunting, besides providing food, is a form of social currency. Sharing a morsel can strengthen an alliance. Refusing to share can ignite enmity. Every bite has a meaning that goes beyond hunger. And in the midst of all this, chimpanzees use tools. Stems prepared for fishing for termites, stones for cracking nuts, leaf sponges for drinking water. It's not pure instinct, it's passed down culture. A mother teaches her offspring, and that technique can be passed down through generations. In Congo, intelligence leaves traces. However, south of the river, the story took a different turn. There, in the deep jungles of the Rive Gauche, lives the bonobo, a relative almost identical in genes but radically different in behavior. Where the chimpanzee built a world of male competition, the bonobo constructed a society dominated by females. The contrast is astonishing. The bonobo moves through the canopy with almost vertical grace. Its long limbs allow it to traverse the branches as if the forest were a private staircase. It also relies on fruit, like the lowland gorilla, but its diet is more varied: leaves, grasses, and occasionally small vertebrates. He is not an absolute pacifist, but his way of handling conflict is unique. Females form strong alliances. Coalitions of mothers, sisters, and daughters monopolize the best food sources and set the social order. A male may be larger, but without female support, his rank plummets. Power does not come from muscle. It is born from the bond. When tension arises, bonobos do not escalate to violence like chimpanzees. They use a repertoire of socio-sexual behaviors to diffuse conflict, seal reconciliations, or exchange favors. It's not a moral scandal, it's social engineering. The result is a more stable community where lethal aggression is rare and everyday cooperation is the norm. Their voices are high-pitched, almost barking, intertwining. A symphony distinct from the gorilla's deep roar. The bonobo's forest sounds like a constant conversation, and that conversation sustains a fragile utopia, because their world depends on the abundance of the canopy, on the fruit trees that sustain the entire community. If that abundance is disrupted, diplomacy can also crumble. The movement of a group of bonobos sends ripples through the forest. Other primates stir, birds change branches, and in the shadows something else listens intently, because not even the most peaceful society is alone in the Congo. While chimpanzees and bonobos write two versions of social life, on the forest floor, another force roams the territory, the mandrill. A creature that seems to have emerged from a chromatic dream. Her face is a biological standard: electric blues, fiery reds, bright yellows, colors that scream status without the need for words. But the mandrill does not dominate through aesthetics, dominate by the multitude. Mandrill hordes are among the largest gatherings of non-human primates on the planet. Hundreds of individuals advance like a tide, stirring up the leaf litter, searching for roots, tubers, insects, and fallen fruit. They are harvesters of the ground, sweepers of the abundance that falls from the canopy. His presence alters everything. The noise of a pack is impossible to ignore. Growls, barks, contact squeals. As they stir up the ground, they raise insects, frighten small vertebrates, and alert predators and competitors. The mandrill does not only live in the ecosystem, he reconfigures it at every step. Their enormous canines, longer than those of a dominant male leopard, are not designed for hunting, but for defense and establishing hierarchy. Internal disputes can be intense, but their true strength lies in the cohesion of the group. Against a predator, the horde is a wall. Facing the forest, it is a living plough. Thus, in the heart of the Congo, three models of social intelligence coexist: the chimpanzee's masculine and belligerent politics, the bonobo's matriarchal diplomacy, the mandrill's disciplined mob. Three different paths to solve the same problem: how to survive amidst shadow, competition, and scarcity. But no power exists in a vacuum. Every move these primates make affects other inhabitants of the forest. Smaller monkeys flee from chimpanzee patrols. Birds change their routes when mandrills pass by. Bonobos, by occupying the canopy, indirectly compete with squirrels, hornbills, and other frugivores. The Congo is a tense network. Touching one thread makes the rest vibrate, and while these complex societies unfold, a silent actor lurks in the shadows, a predator whose life is defined by patience and ambush. It needs neither color nor numbers nor politics. Just wait. The Congo does not grant truces. Beneath the endless architecture of its trees, where roots resemble columns and the air has texture, every creature lives surrounded by eyes it cannot see. In this realm of shadows, social intelligence, the power of numbers, and diplomacy are not absolute guarantees. There's always something more, something that needs neither crowds nor colors nor alliances. something that masters another language, the language of waiting. In stories from the Congo, the spotlight often falls on the great apes, the raucous mandrills, the buffalo that make the ground tremble. But there is an actor who rarely announces himself, who doesn't shout his presence and yet influences every movement in the forest: the leopard. This predator doesn't compete for fruit, leaves, or visible hierarchies. It competes for meat and opportunity. Its body is designed to move like a liquid shadow through the vegetation. Spots that aren't decoration, but fractal camouflage, breaking up its silhouette in the filtered light. For the leopard, the Congo is a game of ambushes. Unlike the lions of the savannah, which hunt in packs and rely on collective strength, the leopard is a professional loner. Every success or failure belongs to him alone. His strategy is based on approaching undetected, gauging invisible distances, and launching an explosive attack that lasts only seconds. The jungle belongs to him because he knows how to listen to it. The great apes are aware of its existence even though they almost never see it. A bonobo moving through the canopy, a chimpanzee patrolling the ground, a young gorilla straying from the group, all carry an ancestral memory of the feline danger. An out-of-place creak, a strange smell in the breeze, a silence that's too perfect. In Congo, fear takes the form of stains. The leopard is not an indiscriminate killer. It weighs the costs. It prefers manageable prey, forest antelopes, small primates, unsuspecting young animals. It rarely confronts a healthy adult gorilla or a troop of mandrills in broad daylight. But the forest isn't always fair. Night changes the rules. When darkness covers the ground and sounds grow louder, the leopard gains the upper hand. Its eyes detect the faintest light, its whiskers read vibrations in the air, and its padded paws erase almost every trace. A chimpanzee that becomes separated from the group at dusk may not return. An overly curious baby gorilla can disappear without witnesses, and yet great apes are not passive victims. Chimpanzees respond with collective vigilance. Their patrols not only search for rivals of their species, but also detect predators. An alarm call can mobilize an entire subgroup in seconds. Bonobos from the canopy use their communication network to warn each other. The Congo is a permanent conversation between hunters and hunted. Mandrills, with their overwhelming numbers, present another challenge for the leopard. Attacking a single individual might be possible. Confronting the pack is almost suicidal. Their collective cries can attract unwanted attention, even from humans. The predator learns to choose. But the leopard is not the only threat. In the rivers and swamps of the Congo lives another ancient lord, a predator that belongs to a much more remote era than primates: the Nile crocodile. Where the forest meets the water, the danger shifts to a new dimension. Lowland gorillas visiting flooded clearings, chimpanzees crossing waterways, buffalo coming down to drink, all enter a territory where patience is measured in motionless hours. The crocodile is a living fossil with a modern strategy. It floats like a log, breathes like a bubble, observes with eyes that barely break the surface. It doesn't need to chase. It waits for necessity to drive its prey toward it. A miscalculated step, an overconfident sip, a moment of distraction. Water becomes a trap. Even giants respect that liquid boundary. Buffalo drink in groups, alert to any ripple. Gorillas avoid deep areas. Chimpanzees seek safe passages among roots. The Congo teaches us to distrust what is still. However, the most persistent predator has no visible claws or teeth. It is the environment itself. Storms that flood territories, droughts that empty fruit trees, diseases that spread with the humidity, parasites that weaken the young. The jungle is generous but also unforgiving. Each season rewrites the rules. When fruit is scarce, chimpanzees become more aggressive. When clearings flood, gorillas must move farther. When insects proliferate, birds change their routes, and primates lose silent allies. Everything is connected, and in that fragile network, the human shadow appears once again. Logging trails that fragment territories, mining that poisons rivers, hunting that breaks down social hierarchies. The leopard can kill individuals, but humans can undo entire systems. Great apes sense it, even if they don't understand it. A logged forest disrupts their feeding routes. A human encampment scares away prey and attracts dogs. Traps don't discriminate between species. The intelligence services of the Congo face a new problem, a predator that does not follow ecological rules. And yet, life endures. In remote clearings, a silverback continues beating its chest to gather its family. In the canopy, female bonobos continue forging alliances. On the ground, mandrills advance like a river of color. The Congo does not give up easily. But every encounter with the invisible hunter, be it leopard, crocodile, or human, serves as a reminder of an uncomfortable truth. No power is absolute. Neither the strength of the gorilla, nor the cunning of the chimpanzee, nor the diplomacy of the bonobo guarantees eternal security. The jungle always exacts its price. Our journey is nearing its final chapter. We have seen empires of trees, complex societies, giants shaping landscapes, and predators stalking silently. What remains to be understood is what all this means for the future of the Congo Basin and for our own. Because this forest is not just a faraway place, it is a mirror of the planet. The Congo is not just a territory drawn on maps. It is a living, breathing system. Every morning, as the mist rises above the canopy and the sun begins to filter its light in golden columns, millions of leaves release into the air the oxygen that sustains life on distant continents. This forest is not a mere spectator of the planet. It is one of its vital organs. A green lung that has worked tirelessly since before the first human cities existed. Here, time is not measured in years, but in eras. During our journey, we have seen how intelligence takes many forms. The political mind of the chimpanzee, capable of planning alliances and betrayals. The diplomacy of the bonobo, which substitutes contact and affection for war. The quiet authority of the gorilla, which governs without the need for violence. The collective strength of the mandrill, a river of bodies that advances as a single being. But now we must look beyond individuals. We must look at the fate of the team. The Congo Basin is home to more than 10,000 plant species, 1,000 bird species, and hundreds of unique mammals. It is a biological mosaic that took millions of years to assemble. Every fallen tree, every polluted river breaks a thread in that tapestry, and a network with too many broken threads eventually collapses. The forest regulates rainfall in Central Africa. Winds crossing the Atlantic gather their moisture here. Without this system, droughts would advance toward the Sahel, temperatures would become more extreme, and the agricultural cycles of millions of people would be disrupted. The Congo is not a stage set, it is a climate engine. However, this engine had never before faced so much pressure at the same time. Industrial logging carves straight scars where labyrinths of life once thrived. Roads divide territories that took gorillas generations to learn to navigate. Mining disturbs soils that have stored carbon since the last ice age. And in the margins of those wounds, hunting finds easy paths. For chimpanzees, a fragmented forest is a psychological trap. Their societies depend on distance and movement. When resources dwindle, tensions rise and internal conflicts multiply. What was once politics becomes stark survival. The more peaceful bonobos suffer in a different way. Their world is based on shared abundance. When the fruit disappears, their social structure falters. The females lose their ability to mediate and the old balance crumbles. Gorillas, with their apparent strength, are equally fragile. A simple human flu can sweep through an entire group like an invisible fire. Traps set for antelopes don't distinguish between species and catch hands that never learned to fear metal. Every encounter with our civilization is an evolutionary Russian roulette. The Congo-African grey parrot lives a cruel paradox. Its extraordinary intelligence, honed to interpret the jungle, has made it a living trophy. In distant markets, people pay for its ability to mimic human voices, while in its home, the forest loses its best sentinel. A canopy without African grey parrots is a more vulnerable canopy. Even predators sense the change. The leopard, master of stealth, finds fewer wild prey and more domestic livestock. The crocodile shares rivers with fishermen who no longer fear the ancient spirits. The balance between hunter and hunted is tipping toward a new chaos. The jungle is learning to live with an unpredictable intruder, us. But to reduce the Congo to a tale of loss would be to betray its true nature. This forest also knows how to heal. In well-protected reserves, mountain gorillas have shown that decline is not their fate. In some regions, populations rebound when provided with security. Chimpanzees learn to use restored corridors. Bonobos recolonize areas where war had driven them out. Life, when left to its own devices, returns. Local communities play a crucial role. For many peoples in Congo, the forest is not a resource, it is a relative. Their languages contain names for plants that science is only beginning to describe. Their myths speak of apes as ancient neighbors, not as merchandise. Without them, any conservation is a house of cards. Projects are emerging where former hunters become guardians, where ecotourism funds schools, where children learn that a live gorilla is worth more than any dead trophy. It's not romanticism, it's the economics of the future. Let's imagine a different tomorrow, a Congo where roads are planned around biological corridors, where mining repairs what it touches, where the pet trade is a shameful memory, where scientists work alongside shamans and park rangers. That future is not a utopia, it is a choice. The great apes are unaware that their fate is being debated in distant offices. They continue with their ancient rituals. The silverback builds its nest of leaves. The female bonobo reconciles two rivals. The chimpanzee teaches its infant to crack a nut with a stone, simple acts that sustain complex worlds. The Congo reminds us of something uncomfortable. Intelligence is not the exclusive property of our species. There are other ways of thinking, of organizing life, of resolving conflicts. Losing them would impoverish the universe of possibilities. Every extinct ape is a burned library. It also teaches us humility. This forest survived ice ages, river shifts, and continental drift. It can outlive us. The question isn't whether the Congo will have a future, but whether we will have one with it. As evening falls, when the sun sinks behind a wall of violet clouds, the entire forest seems to exhale. The African grey parrots return to their roosts, the bonobos call to each other from the canopy, and the gorillas seek refuge among the treetops. The jungle speaks in many languages at once. Our journey ends, but the story continues. It will continue as long as there is a river that divides worlds, as long as a mandrill crosses the clearing like a living flag, as long as a leopard writes its signature in the mud, as long as a Congolese child learns the name of a tree. If these words made you hear the heartbeat of the Congo, help us make sure others hear it too. Like this documentary, subscribe for new expeditions, and share this journey with those who still believe the Earth deserves a wild future. Because protecting the Congo is not about saving a distant landscape. It's about defending the living memory of the planet, and, in some way, defend ourselves.